Hello and welcome to our 3-class series, Easing Stress Using Neurographica. I'm Alina Smoliansky, a certified Neurographica instructor with 6 years of experience. I trained thousands of students, checked all the assignments. I welcome everyone, those who know Neurographica but just want to join and draw together, and those who are completely new. Of course, I will make this series of classes as easy as possible. Welcome to the wonderful world of Neurographica. This is especially designed for you in mind. If you haven't tried Neurographic art, Neuro art, or even didn't take a pencil or marker since your school time, no problem. It's very easy to learn. And please know that the effect of the method doesn't depend on your drawing skills. It's not about art, it's about you. Please always remember, do not compare yourself to others, and you will be fine. You will be fine. But my only suggestion, practice it, because Neurographica, like any skill, requires practice. What we're going to do in these 3 days. The first session is the introduction. I will briefly talk about Neurographica. Then we'll start drawing, and I will introduce the 2 main elements, the neurographic line and rounding. Then we'll complete a simple drawing, relaxing drawing, and the questions at the end. This second session will be a little bit more intense. We try one of the most known iconic technique in Neurographica, which is the algorithm or technique for removing constraints. No worries, you don't need to know the steps, you just follow me. And the third class will be more easy, relaxing drawing. If you heard about Neuro Tree, but it's easy one, it's more about gratitude and completion for our course. Today, as I mentioned, introduction to Neurographica, drawing, questions at the end. Let's start talking about Neurographica. Let's switch the camera, my drawing tools. I do not use anything fancy in spite of my years of being Neurographica instructor and Neurographica artist. I still use very simple tools, and I found they're the most useful of all different sets. If you draw more intense colors, run out quickly, they're not professional grade. They're all school or academic grade. The quality of your supplies do not affect your drawing. The result doesn't depend on how professional your supplies are. I will always recommend not fine liners, but markers with felt tip. And I also like brush markers. A little bit more advanced, but requires more control. Paper, simple. For now, you can use printer paper, no problem. For the first drawing, I use a little bit heavy. It's a sketch paper, a little bit heavier than printer paper. Those are smooth surface. Why smooth surface? Because you draw line, neurographic line with a marker. It's easy. It just glides. Let's use smooth paper. Neurographica, that's a method about 10-year-old, and it was formalized by Dr. Pavel Piskarov, a Russian psychologist with a lot of experience. So it was developed and formalized by him and the Institute of Neurographica and Psychology of Creativity. You may have heard about Neurographica and neurographic art. They are not the same thing. And I want to mention, if you find neurographic art, they may refer on YouTube to something similar, but it's more for relaxing, instant relaxing and easing effect, but it's not lasting. If you want permanent change, new habit, creating new pattern, please consider Neurographic. And before we begin any drawing, I would like you to do a small test. Since the name for the workshop is stress relief, easy transition into a season, let's make a small test. I would like you to count, that breathing in our inner state relate very much. Just count how many cycle of breathing in inhalation, exhalation, breathing in and out. You do within 30 seconds. I start with count, and you just count how many cycles you have. Start. Just normal, no restriction. Stop. That was 30 seconds. And now multiplied by 2, and that was how many cycles you have in a minute. And please write it somewhere so you remember, because I would like to run this test again at the end of our exercise. Now let's start our drawing. It's very simple. Paper, choose any marker you want, any color. We will use only one marker, one color marker for the entire exercise. Just draw any line. I'll do the green. This is an example of a neurographic line. You can see it's uneven and it doesn't repeat itself. It has no pattern. If you do just a simple line, that's okay too. So what's so special about the neurographic line? It's not straight. It has no obvious pattern. A pattern like this, it repeats itself. So this is not neurographic line. Similar, it could be like also pattern, and or any other ornament that you can think about will not be considered the neurographic line because it has a pattern and it means it's predictable. We know what follows next. Your first impression about the neurographic line could be that it resembles nature. If you think about waves coming on the sand, or if you look at the top of the trees at the distance, they have an even line. If you look at a leaf, that edge that may look very similar to the next leaf, they're all different. There is no repetition in nature. It can be similarity, but not exactly the same. While the neurographic line resembles the nature, but it's not, it's built in a different way. We draw it with intention. The question is how I produce this neurographic line, regardless whether I have like years of training. I just simply started drawing it. And when I looked at it, I forced my hand to turn to avoid repetition. So like this. It could be in any direction, starting from bottom up. You're welcome to try. At the beginning, you just have to know that the line that doesn't repeat itself. It has no obvious pattern. So of course, if you magnify this part, some part of it will resemble it. But to our eyes, there is no repetition. Why we need this particular line that's unpredictable? The mind doesn't know what to do the next. If we want to change stereotype, we want this line to break the pattern that already exists, the habit in our brain that I have obvious path that goes from there, to there. And by repeating the same, like in our brain, we just create repetition again and again. For example, repeating line would be like reinforcing. The neurographic line attempts to break this pattern. So, because if we want some change, this is intended change. Of course, it's semi-controlled. Part of our mind, like intellect, controls this line when we force our hand to turn, not to fall into this habitual movement repeating. But part of it is influenced by our subconscious mind. And this is the gray area when you hear about neurographic art in YouTube videos. Just draw intuitively. Just use an intuition and draw. Producing the line like this. Again, this is not neurographic line, because very quickly the mind intuition falls into a pattern and will recreate what already exists. I agree, this line is fine for relaxation. If you just need to relax quickly, yes. This is a beautiful art form which evolved from Neurographica. It's good for relaxation. But for long-lasting change, for any serious effect, I suggest studying a little bit Neurographica. You don't need to know much. Let's do a few more lines. When I'm drawing it, I force my hand to change direction. Right now, it has no path. I just force direction and often like micro movement. And the next step that's very important, it's so recognizable, is the principle of rounding. That's one of the main elements, shapes in neurographic alphabet, what we call the circle. There are two other figures included in the neurographic alphabet, the triangle and rectangle, but we do not study them right now. What is rounding and why we need it? Anywhere where the two lines cross, they create corners, which some of them look quite sharp and some of them less. Our intuition perceives it as danger. That probably came from very early times. Just by looking at it, it creates association with something sharp. I mean, shaped like this. If we think about how we developed as humans, we were probably afraid that it was anything that could damage us. Rocks, sharp, thorns, fangs, claws of animals, and even weapons. In our reptilian brain, in our very deep in our subconscious mind, this exists as something that is not positive. While the circle, round shape, having no sharp edges, we think about it that it cannot damage us, we cannot cut our skin. Also, the sun that gave us light and warmth, also round, or the moon, light, round. So anything round is perceived as positive. So that's one of the elements, and called rounding. In anywhere in our drawing where we see these sharp connections, we round them. I mean, like creating a small, like U shape and round, changing the entire picture and most importantly, our perception. For example, there is a line and crossing another line. So of course, I do not draw the whole circle, but I make this some, like I curl the line like very, yeah, like a small shape, like U shape, like this. If your hand is not trained to do this rounding, you may end up with having a round and a line in the sticking point. Please make sure that you bring it to the nearest line and you may, because even if you include rounding, like here, and its sticking point will create this sharp edge that will resemble an arrow. So that's why using markers like this, felt tip markers, easy, especially at the beginning and its drawing, to include the shape and draw round corners, curving the line. And it's easy to do with this tool than, let's say, with a fine line. For example, this is, a pen, fine liner, but especially at the beginning, it will be challenging to create smooth around the corner. It's okay. You can leave your fine liners. They also could be used in the Graphica in more advanced techniques. Now let's return to our drawing and round as many corners as you see. A good question. What about sharp turns within a line? Around them too? Yes. If you have a line, look, let's say like this, and you see it as a sharp turn, you're welcome to round it. Look. A good question. Yeah, it's a jagged lines or sharp corners are very common at the beginning when you start drawing neurographic lines. When I started drawing Neurographica, I practiced just drawing the line and rounding. I was overthinking every time when I was drawing lines, and I realized I would not be able to complete anything. For a couple of weeks, I kept on drawing lines. Good question. Do we look at the paper while we draw our lines, or can they sometimes be drawn without looking at the paper? In the drawing like this, yes, you can look away. You can even try with the left hand, or no, not dominant hand, that also, and not looking. Yes, in this type of drawing, when we draw random, free, like lines, yes, not necessary to look, and for concentration, meditative feeling, you do. But most of the drawings, we have a idea of what we want to draw. For example, when we try another exercise, we will need to look at the paper because there will be a direction for every line. So it really depends on the drawing. When we have a certain idea in our mind, in the neuro drawing, a certain composition, the structure of the drawing, we need to look at the paper. Well, we have a few lines. Now, but we can also include circles. A couple of circles to give it some like focal point to our drawing. A question about a coin. I have seen some tutorials that use a coin to draw neurographic lines. What's your opinion? My opinion, yes, it could be done for relaxation, for easy drawing like this. But traditionally, we draw lines without a coin, without any object. So it's the idea to train your mind. And of course, this is a very first introduction, very simple about the neurographic line that I typically give in my free tutorials. The basic user course that I offer, I explain more about the neurographic line, how to draw it, but there are some other elements. And in this case, a coin will not help. So we still need to learn how to draw the neurographic line without any help. But for relaxation, for fun, yes, you can use the coin. Actually, some of the tutorials I've seen use a button because it's lighter and it's much more difficult to control than the coin. So it's another option. So, well, let's add some focal points to our drawing. Where to add circles? In this particular exercise, anywhere you feel like. You focus. But I suggest anywhere that your attention, there's a certain part of the drawing that draws your attention. Position your circle there, any size. How many? One or two. Yeah. I start looking this one, and I have all a special designed place for a circle. I'll just use it here. Using the existing line. Egg shape is fine. And I said the circle, I mean something round. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I include it in the drawing by rounding where the original neurographic line and the circle cross. Seems like too small. Maybe I can include a larger one. This is up to you whether you want to have more or one circle. That's an example. I feel like I need a more dominant figure. We'll just a sticking line, and I gently bring it to. And again, I round these corners that were formed when lines crossed. There's a question about how many circles. As many as you feel like. If this drawing no specific instructions, we have a classical exercise 40 circles. If there is a meaning in the circles in this specific drawing, no, it's like where your attention. But in general, in Neurographica, we use circles as to focus our attention in specific area. They have meaning, they're figures. They could be, indicate resources. They could indicate a source of power or any other meaning that you can add them. For example, element, oh, this is my goal. But in this drawing, it's just we keep it simple. What meaning it adds to the drawing is just a focal, like focal point, a figure that draws our attention in this composition to this element. It becomes like the main element in the drawing. So I would have too many circles? Probably not. Being reasonable, how many circles? Yeah, circles, you add meanings to them. Let's add some colors. It's very important neurographic. They add certain qualities to our drawing. We use some ideas. It could be like a chakra system and the 5-element theory, but it's correct to add any color you want. You start with any color. You look at your pencils. select those you like and start applying. You can color overlines, you can color figures. There's only one suggestion if you have a Neurographica is that you color not one area, but at least a couple of areas next to each other. That's what I did. You don't need to color everything. Like white is also color. Yes, feel free to add any colors you want. You can shade and there are a couple other elements important in Neurographica, but I will save them for tomorrow. I will explain more about the filled lines. If you know, you're welcome to add them. They are just stronger, more powerful, wider lines that stretch through the entire drawing from edge to edge. Could be from bottom upwards or sideways. They're very special and the main elements in Neurographica. So you're welcome to add them to this drawing, especially or just leave it next time. I will explain in our next drawing. There will be another exercise. For me, like they unite the drawing, but they also are more powerful, more energizing for the entire drawing. If you edit these wider lines, what we call them filled lines, also make sure that you include them in the drawing by rounding, connecting them to the thinner lines. That's probably enough for today with this first introductory drawing. If you know enough about the Neurographica, you may decide which one of your circles is the fixing element, the new focal point, the main element. If you don't know, it's okay to leave it like this. But if you want to include it, you just decide that one of the circles feels more important for you and you outline it. It's just intuition. And I make it as wide as the field line. Thank you. Yes, I would call it mesmerizing. When you start drawing it, it could be engaging it because the brain relaxes and falls into a certain state. And this is probably very good question whether, no, you can't harm your drawing. If you have your lines, is it incomplete? It's enough to draw the lines for experience, just relaxing and nice feeling. If you didn't include all these extra elements, that's fine. From my experience, drawing lines could be effective as well. Hey, so with this, let's do another 30 seconds of a very quick test of our breathing. Please count how many you have now. If it's the same, it's okay. You might have been very relaxed when we started. Let's begin now. Stop. Let's multiply by 2 and notice if any change comparing to when we started our drawing. If somebody commented about a great way to start the day, to work in a few minutes. If you're working, that could be a good relaxing time. Just take any paper and a few minutes, draw those lines. That could can help relax the mind. And to stretch your legs, you can even stand up and draw these lines. Or even if you can draw them like not on paper, just like with a finger on the wall, on the glass, that can produce a very relaxing effect as well. Now I will return to our classroom. It's very short, very relaxing introductory exercise. Tomorrow we will build on some skills and knowledge that we started today. We will use the neurographic line, rounding, but the drawing will be more intense, will be maybe less talking, more drawing. Okay, so with this, what I also wanted to mention before we start questions. If you found this helpful, I want you to know that I will be offering the basic user course in October, which is a foundation of Neurographica. If you're not ready for the basic user course, I will also offer a short Neurographica course, Introduction into Neurographica, on September 30th. And as a participant of this free event, the 3-day classes, you will get special discounts. I will also duplicate all this and I explain more in my newsletters when you receive as a participant of this course. And there will be also, there's a special, if you heard about Neurovember, which is in November, will be a very special event to continue to help you with practice of Neurographica. That will be after our October course. I will explain again when we come to the finish, and you will receive all this information in my letters. We also have a Facebook group. If you're a member of that group, that's fine. You're welcome to share your drawings there. If not, you can share on your, oh, not share. I want you to feel that you spend this hour and you're going to use and you found it helpful, and it will help in your life to add to your toolboxes. What of the edges? The edge, there was a question I mentioned to edge. I mean the edge of paper. At the beginning, when you're talking about the edges, we suggest drawing using the entire paper at the edges. Do you round at the edges of the paper when the lines that? No, that's a good question. No, when I draw lines until the very end, I just let them. I don't round using the edge of paper. The neurology, a question about psychology, neurology, or Neurographica. Yes, I mentioned that in the courses, but right now we have very little time. And also, I wrote a couple of articles on my blog post when I explain about neurology and neuroplasticity in Neurographica.
Alina, I've been drawing with you for ages, but
Yes,
I just wanted to share. I've had an incredibly stressful, probably 4 or 5 days, like super stressful. And yesterday was such a down. And just simply drawing with you, I actually have to say my soul feels so at peace again. I just like everything dropped, all that like, blah, it's just gone, just gone. So I just wanted to thank you. And for anybody who's new here, it just shows you that over time and as you draw, I didn't have an intention. I didn't have anything like that for this drawing. I just drew along, and yet what a huge difference in being.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I'm still it's a very calm state of mind. And the fact that we're drawing here together with a group, with a nice group, 20 people with the same intention of relaxing also affects. So if you have an opportunity to come to live classes, please, group energy matters. Thank you so much for sharing you. Yeah, it's very important too, especially for beginners to know the effect of Neurographica. Thank you so much.